Welcome everyone to my channel, Parent Teacher Magic. My name is Miss Rosa. In this video, we are going deep into operations and algebraic thinking when it comes to math for addition and subtraction and how we as teachers make that happen. And I am going to try and explain it to you in a way that you'll be able to explain it to your child, help them be more successful, and hopefully ease some of the stress that comes with sitting down with your child during homework or remediation time. Numbers and operations in base 10 is another component of the math standards, and it is a very important part for a student to be fluent in adding and subtracting. What I mean by fluency is that the child is able to add numbers up to a sum of 10, although 5 is the goal for kindergarten, at least for in Louisiana it is, but the child would not only be able to add numbers up to 5 mentally, but can even tell you a missing variable in an addition or subtraction sentence, kind of like algebra, hence the term algebraic thinking. Alrighty, so with that being said, let's get started. So before I dive into these math components, let me be clear by stating that to understand addition and subtraction, the end goal is for your child to understand that adding is putting quantities together, adding to a quantity, putting parts together, if you will. Subtraction is the opposite, meaning taken away, taking a quantity apart from a whole, ending up with less, and being able to tell how much is left. The words whole and part are very important, and you will hear me using these a lot. Now, the standards for operations in math include representing addition and subtraction in many different ways, solving math stories using drawings or objects, fluently adding within 5, finding what number is needed to make 10, and finding ways to decompose numbers and make equations. I'm going to explain all of this in more detail in the upcoming slides, and I promise you it really is not as complicated as it seems. I want to stress that if and when your child has these strong math foundational skills, they are more likely to be successful in math and future grades, and strength in math has been proven to affect how well children perform in other subjects. Being able to count fluently from 0 to 10 is very important prior to these standards. Watch the previous video if you need help with that. Representing addition and subtraction in many ways is just that. In my previous math video, I had mentioned how a very important part of kindergarten for all subjects is the ability to independently strategize when faced with a challenge. When it comes to math, there are many ways one can solve a problem. Using their fingers, drawing a picture, or using manipulatives are just some examples. Manipulatives can include like counters, like cubes, crayons, cereal pieces, crackers, just about anything that they can touch and move for counting. In kindergarten and in all grades, drawing is huge. We as adults draw to solve problems, don't we? Testing students in 3rd grade and higher not only have to show their computations, but they are also instructed to draw a picture to show how it all makes sense. It allows them to prove their work and also allows a teacher to have some insight on how the child is thinking, and we can even see where the mistakes are being made. Encourage your child to draw as one of the many ways to solve a problem. It will be very beneficial in the future, as well as for you, because you can see what is going on in your child's brain. And don't we always wish we could do that? If they struggle with drawing, it would be a wonderful opportunity for you to sit down with them and model how you would draw to figure things out. It's a really good idea to model for our children that we too have to stop and think about things, that answers do not just magically appear. We have to work through some things to figure things out. Next up, finding what number is needed to make 10. This is where algebraic thinking comes in. I would like to introduce you to a 5 frame. If your child is using Eureka Math, this is definitely something that they will be seeing for years to come. We train our students to see numbers in a 5 frame for a few reasons. A quantity of dots becomes memorized like a picture. For example, they see a row of 5 dots. They know it's 5, and hopefully they don't have to count one at a time again and just know and say 5 and count on from there. This helps with counting faster. Another way a 5 frame is useful is by comparing how many dots to how many blank spaces. thus beginning the concept of how many more are needed to make 5, which leads to 1 and how many more make 5. Kind of like a missing variable in an addition sentence. 1 plus what equals 5, and so on. And as you can see, we can do it for the different quantities. Eventually, this will become a 10 frame, which then the student understands that 10 is composed of 2 5s. Now it's starting to come together, right? Okay, so now we're not looking at it so much as how many more are needed to make 5, obviously, but now how many more are needed to make 10. But still keeping the idea that they will look at a quantity and memorize it like a picture, just like this. You see the pink dots and you see the blank spaces. These will become the 2 parts that we hope for them to see. So another part is trying to get them to see the 2 parts of a picture. All right, let's talk number sentences. Remember, we are talking algebraic thinking, so your young one will learn to put missing numbers into an equation. Using this 5 frame and looking at the number sentence, a child would see that there are 3 dots and 2 blank spaces. Those blank spaces need to be filled to make 5. This is helping them understand that the missing part of the equation is 2. Before this happens, let me make a note of this, is that we do explain a little bit that the plus sign means putting the 2 parts together, and the equal is mentioned as the same as, or is, or all together. This takes practice, moms and dads. We can beat a dead horse into trying to make them understand the difference between the both signs, the plus and the equal, but it takes time. They will get it confused, but let them go ahead and play around with it like a dry erase board, making a number sentence or something. But eventually, they're going to get that the parts are the dots and the blank spaces, and that the whole is the 5. Well, then you have this happen. The equation gets turned around and the whole comes first. Again, the goal is for the child to understand that a whole can be decomposed into parts. So saying that putting 3 and 2 together is the same as 5, we also want them to understand that 5 is the same as 3 and 2. Get it? Your child now has to use their visual discrimination, or as I like to say, using their eagle eyes, to pay attention and notice when the equal sign comes first in a sentence frame. Like I said before, this will take time and practice. Just help them by pointing out the symbol that comes first and remind them to read left to right. Print concepts, which I'll be talking about in another video. Let's throw in the number bond. Remember how I said I was going to go back and forth using the terms whole and parts? This is where the visualization of that comes into play. The number bond is a visual representation of the parts coming together as a whole, or the whole being decomposed into 2 parts. There are many ways that we in the classroom try and explain the number bond and make it easier for a child to understand why we're using it. Here's one way that you can do it at home. Think about the circles as parts, right? And the whole is some kind of special occasion. So if you have the top circle being a red house and the bottom circle being a blue house, and my counters, I'm going to name them something like bears or dogs or frogs or cars, whatever your child is into. Put them in the parts and they're going to come together into the big circle for a whole of our special occasion, into the whole. Okay, so I would say something like this. 3 bears were in the red house. 2 bears were in the blue house. The bears wanted to go to the big circle, which is the playground. So if they all go into the circle, how many bears go to the playground altogether? This is where you can demonstrate the 2 groups or parts sliding up the black lines into the big circle coming together as a whole. And voila, you have a whole way to teach the number bond to your students. To your child. Use real life situations in your story because it helps them make connections. And after playing around with numbers up to 5, make a chart at home with some 5 facts as an easy go-to reference for your young one so they can keep a mental picture of the different parts of 5. And it doesn't have to be number sentences. This can be dots and boxes or just a part of a circled row of dots. Same thing with 10. Using a 10 frame and a number bond and a number sentence, the student is demonstrating addition in many ways. This is what the standard calls for. We teach them all of the ways to show addition and ask them to show all of them for fluency purposes. But also, this helps them begin making their own strategy toolkit. Whichever one they will go to when they need to solve a problem later on can be up to them. And let's not forget about drawing a picture, which I explained in the beginning that it's very important and can be modeled by you, the parent, or another adult, and gradually releasing responsibility to them to do it by themselves. As we're coming close to the end of this video, let me mention one thing about what happens in my classroom, and it could become one of your favorite aha moments at home too. When the child eventually sees the connection between the numbers that are being represented in the 10 frame, in the number bond, and the number sentence, they will see that all of the numbers are there. They're just arranged differently and represented differently too. Now, mind you, I do realize that my subtraction sign and my equal sign should have been reversed in this part, but let me talk about subtraction. Subtraction is turning things all upside down for little ones. It's funny because I always get nervous when we are transitioning from addition to subtraction because I think they're going to be confused and struggling to understand, but it's actually easier than you think to do this. For example, you can take a tower of Legos, Jenga blocks, anything stacked, books, socks, whatever. It can be anything. Put the tower or pile together one by one, stating what you're doing, like starting with 0, and then you add one more, and it's 1. Then you have 1, and one more than 1 is 2, and go all the way to 10. Now, when your pile or stack is up to 10, start taking it apart one by one. Same when you put it together, this time saying 1 less, or I have 9, I take 1 away, and now I have 8. Until the stack or pile is left with none. Ask your child to verbalize what they saw you do in the beginning and when you were taken away. Kind of have them explain to you what you did so they can understand the concept that one of them was putting things together and the other one was putting things or taking things apart and having less. I truly enjoy teaching math. Math is like a puzzle. You just kind of need to figure out the missing piece to fill the gap to help them understand, and it helps to backtrack and see where that misconception point was or what they missed. We can say this for all subjects, but like I said, if they are successful in math, it opens doors for them to be more successful in school overall. And don't forget about using the number bond as a tool to help you explain parts, composing or decomposing. And another pointer is to practice having your child use a number sentence both ways with the sum at the beginning or at the end of the number sentence. Allow me to quickly show you how these skills progress from kindergarten to 3rd grade. It's all about what happens between kindergarten and 3rd grade moms and dads. Early childhood years build foundational skills for the rest of their lives. And I'm not trying to be a negative Nancy, but just instead stress the importance of the early years because after all, that is the purpose and the mission of this channel, and this is my job for you. So in kindergarten, like I just explained, they add and subtract up to 10 in different ways. 1st grade, they're adding and subtracting up to 20 in different ways using symbols for unknown. So now they're actually putting a letter for the missing number, and they can also sometimes be having to figure out which operation they have to do, whether it's adding or subtracting. In 2nd grade, they're adding and subtracting up to 100, where those base 10s come in handy because they're able to add quickly because they're putting a picture of those 10 frames in their minds and also doing multi-step stories or math stories. You know them as word problems. 3rd grade, they're using multiplication and division to solve word problems and interpret products and quotients of whole numbers. So this is how the standards progress from kindergarten to 3rd grade. We don't want to have any gaps between those grade levels because it's very important for them not to be struggling in the next grade level. All right, so let's wrap this up, my friends, my wonderful subscribers and new visitors. I just discussed the kindergarten math standards for algebraic thinking and numbers and operations in base 10. It is almost impossible to cover every anticipated misconception that may occur, So that is why it's important for you. If you have any questions or need some advice, please feel free, comment down below, or visit one of my pages on Facebook or Instagram and leave me a message. Until next time, thanks again for watching. I hope you come back, share with a friend or a fellow parent so we can all help out our community no matter where we live. And thanks again for watching Parent Teacher Magic. Remember, when parent and teacher work together, something magical happens. Bye.